Hi there, this is Gary MacDougall here, and what I wanted to talk about today was the gift of pain. Now, pain doesn't seem like much of a gift, but I tell you, it can be good sometimes. Yeah, it's been kind of painful for me this morning. I started filming a video, and all of a sudden it stopped on the memory on this phone was full. I'm not very technologically advanced, so that was really painful. So not much of a gift there, but I'm doing this again, and new information's kind of coming to me that I wanted to speak about. So um, it's just about pain, about how pain can be like a doorway to more wholeness. A pain can be a doorway to your spiritual power, to the gifts and abilities that you have that you might not even know you have. Yeah, so basically this past week has been kind of painful. Just with our family, it just seems like a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of the stuff is coming out, and I just feel like in a lot and it's coming out for a lot of people. Like I've been talking to a lot of people having some really big challenges this past week with just with their families or just with themselves or just with work or whatever. I just think that sometimes we need to go through this stuff, whether it's astrologically in the stars or whatever. Sometimes like each of us individually have to go through pain. Like this is our gift to become more whole, to become more alive. And if we just surrender to it and give in to it and go through the process, we can heal ourselves, we can become more whole and become a lot happier in life. And I really think we're put on this planet, or we come into these bodies as spirits to become more whole. That it's not just about going to school, get an education, have a family, make lots of money, save for retirement, and then off to the spirit realm you go and you leave the body. Like there's so much more to it, and yeah, just to accept pain as a part of the process, to accept the rain when usually it's raining today instead of kind of funny. Never thought of that. It's raining today on a beautiful sunny day. We never get rain in here in the summer in Victoria, but we're getting rain today. So and just humbly accept our path that pain's in front of it sometimes, that's just an opportunity to grow and become more whole. So yeah, and so just a note about pain and how pain's kind of changed my life a lot. And just thinking about the story about, I've told the story about synchronicity and talking to my neighbor and about how the fence came down and I was going through a painful time, and how the gift of that was, I started praying for life, and I started praying for my health, and I wanted to be alive again. I wanted to live in a life full of joy and going downstream where there was ease to it and there was a flow to it. And at the time it didn't feel like that. I was struggling. I was grieving the loss of this old best friend who had passed away. And but there's a lot of synchronicity about that fence. And something I didn't bring up in that story was my neighbor had asked me about, I told him my last name was MacDougall and we were from Scotland. He asked me a little bit about history because he was fascinated by history, and his wife actually took her master's on Scottish history and the Scottish clearances. I'd never heard about the Scottish clearances, and he asked me about my family. I said, "Oh, we came over to Canada 200 years ago on a teaching grant, and we were offered free land. And my first ancestor he was 7 generations ago. He was a school teacher." He goes, "Are you sure about that story?" And I'm like, "I think so." And he says, "Well, my wife did her master's on the Scottish clearances, and what the Scottish clearances were there were these English landowners that owned bits and pieces of Scotland or all of Scotland, I don't know, but they owned the area where my relatives left." And I was able to do some searching, and he told me basically basically in the story he said, these English landowners came over and they wanted to clear away the land because they wanted to clear the Scottish people off the land, because instead of letting them farm it and gain taxes from the Scottish people and make money, what they wanted to do is they wanted to clear it. They thought they could make the land more profitable by raising sheep. So they said, "Scottish people, you got to get off this land." So they kicked the people off the land, and the reason they kicked them off the land is for the sheep and to make it more profitable. But they sent a lot of the Scottish people to the shores to become fishermen. Now a lot of the Scottish, like the older people and the younger people, a lot of them passed away because they didn't grow up, or their generations weren't fishermen. They were farmers, and so a lot of people passed away. But my family, I think luckily, I wasn't able to find out how they made it to Canada, how they got on a ship, because ships it would have cost a lot of money at the time. My the MacDougall 7 generations ago who got on the ship, his wife, or my grandmother, my great 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 grandmother, her dad. His last name was Ferguson. He was a ship captain, so perhaps they had some sort of a connection that way that they were able to get on the ship. So so yeah, just hearing the story and learning about my history, it was bringing up my own pain. And at the time, I was working with a lot of men who were going through pain. they were like third generation of their grandparents had dealt, they were or not German, they were Jewish in descent, and they were going through pain right now, and their pain was related to their grandfathers who were a part of the Holocaust, who were in concentration camps, who dealt with a lot of pain, but they didn't talk about it. So now here, these people 2 generations on are talking about their pain. They're talking about their feeling of rejection, not feeling worthy because they're Jewish, and they're less than because they're Jewish. So they're working on their self-worth, working on releasing this pain of of so many people being in concentration camps, and that how that pain got passed down to them, and that now they have to deal with it. And it was triggering my own pain, and I think so. From what I was seeing, was my pain was coming from, it seemed to me like, and I ended up getting a session from this woman, and this woman was working with my wife, and I just felt like I needed a session from her, and she was kind of like, she did things around like shamanistic stuff and soul retrieval. So what was coming up for me in my session with her is the rejection I was feeling, the pain I was feeling. It wasn't just from this lifetime. It was stored in my blood. It was stored in my body, and it felt like it got passed down. So what I was seeing was in my session with her, I was seeing this pain that I was experiencing, but it was through the eyes of that Scottish man that was kicked off his land, and I was feeling the pain of him being a father of 5, loving his land, being totally connected to his land, and having this food and having this lifestyle and having his home, and being told by these English landowners that he had to get kicked off. And I was seeing this stuff, and I was feeling this pain, I was feeling this grief, and I felt like crying, and I think I probably did after. I cried a lot just to get out the stuff, and but the neat thing was, I was thinking, am I making this up in my mind? And after, in the session, basically the girl that was doing the session on me, she told me exactly what I had seen. Like, she said, like, it looked like he was grieving, and he was grieving the loss of his land and the fact that he had to leave his home, and he didn't want to go, and there was pain there, but he hadn't, basically what she had saw, what I felt was he hadn't grieved the loss of his land. So what happens was he goes to this new land, he goes to Canada, and he gets back into farming, he gets to teaching or whatever he does. But he has this pain and this loss, and that gets passed down to the kids, because the kids can feel that. Subconsciously, kids can feel what their parents feel, whether they're verbalizing it or not, and they might act it out if they're in pain. And later in life, when we're in pain, we go to like drugs or alcohol to numb the pain. We watch TV. We make ourselves busy with being parents, but to sit still in pain, it's hard to sit in pain. Pain is painful, and we like to run from pain as humans. But what I feel like, as I do yoga, or as I do journaling, as I do meditation, I just sit in that pain. We can become more whole. We can get our souls back. We can get our love back, our joy back, our essence. And something else that we got back in that session with that lady, what I'd seen was my relative. It was like before he left the land, I saw him. I saw this vision, and I thought I was making this up, right? I saw this vision where he was like, he took his hands and he was placing all his information about farming, all his information, all his love for that land into the land. And it was like he was leaving it there for like the future generations to pick that up in case it was lost, in case he lost it, in case that information was lost. I thought, that is far out there, whatever he was doing or whatever that was. And a short time later, my wife was reading a book in the backyard, and I picked the book up and I opened it, to this image of this. It was an image of this man, and he was doing something very similar. And on the caption it read, he was a Druid man from like the 8th century, 8th century AD, and he was putting his information into this stone in Scotland. And I kind of got that Twilight feeling, kind of, it was kind of creepy, it was kind of awesome, it kind of, made the hair stand up my head. Just feeling like what I had seen in my vision about my ancestor passing on that information into the land was that was something that they did back then. That's something that our ancestors did. And as much pain, like I needed to feel the pain of that rejection of him, I was able to heal that. But also there was something there for me. What I got was I needed to call forth the information he had left behind. And so I did that. I just got onto the earth and I prayed, and I said, earth, the spirit of the earth, God, whatever he left behind, just give that to me. I'm open to that. If I'm seeing this, I must be seeing this for a reason. So yeah, this might seem really far out there, but I was just going through this process, and since, like, I've really been into gardening for the past 10 years and into plants and flowers and making things beautiful. It's just something that I do, something as a hobby. I like making our land look as pretty as possible. But something that's come forth since then is this passion about soil, this passion about about growing our own food, I saw a video recently about how the food that we eat, or like each North American consumes, there's like, we all consume like 400 gallons of oil a year, and half of that oil is consumed just by getting the food to us from California, or getting our apples from New Zealand, or so yeah, this passion of me of just like I want to raise my own food. I want to turn my front lawn. The front lawns is like the biggest crop in the world, but it's useless. It's just green grass. An English invention, and I have no harsh feelings towards the English invention. I live in an English part of Victoria, and but yeah, I just feel like taking my power back is like, it's getting back to the earth, getting back to like feeding the soil, getting back to, we got compost bins in our back, and we want to make our own food on our property, to not consume so much and live in harmony with the land like that ancestor did 7 years ago. So it feels like this passion that was covered underneath this pain, underneath this suffering that I was going through, is kind of awakening in me. So, I've heard that before about how, passion and about love and our creativity, it's in us. It's stored, like our power is in us. It's just, maybe it's underneath the pain. So if you're feeling pain, if you're struggling with finances, whatever, I'm just like, I pray for you, and I pray to God that hurt that is inside, that sadness that inside, it can just be taken away. And that, whether you need to cry that out, write it out, talk to another person about it, whatever, that's just taken away, so that our power comes back to us, that our passion comes back to us, that we feel alive again, that we can fix our financial situation, that our relationships can be fixed, whatever. That pain can be such a gift, because it says that something's wrong. And if we can just sit with it and put our addictions aside and feel it and go through this process, that we can make our lives better, that we can become in harmony with ourselves. I feel this big one coming on. We can get in harmony with all living things again. We can get in harmony with the earth. And yeah, it's just another big thing is coming on. It's like, you don't have to be an indigenous person. First Nations in North America, or there were indigenous people in Europe back in the day. There are indigenous people in Australia. You don't have to be indigenous to be connected to the earth and live in harmony with the earth. We can all make choices to be more in harmony with the earth. Are we going to be perfect? No, but I'm just grateful to God, grateful to this universe, that I feel alive again, and that I have this passion. I have this new passion about spirituality and helping people, but also living more in harmony with the land, and farming. And that's something that indigenous people did, and they farmed, or they hunted and gathered. So I might not be out there shooting a deer on my street because we have a deer problem in Victoria, but I might have to put some deer fencing up and farm my front yard, put in some fruit trees, put in some veggies, and bring my kids up that way. So that they see my passion, and hopefully it doesn't bore the heck out of them, but they have some fun with it. We might even get some chickens. We got a bunch of wood from our neighbor for free. He was going to throw it in the dumpster, and we got a ton of wood where we want to make a chicken pen. If I can convince my kids, they're kind of having fun with the thought. I said if we got 3 chickens, we'd name them Braden, Chanel, and Skylar, and they got a big kick out of that. So yeah. So I'm just praying for you, for your life, for your health, for joy, for abundance, whatever you need. And I'm doing it. I know you can do it. And yeah, lots of love. And that's it. Thank you.